start? Super. So thank you. And it's amazing that both of us are from Ahmedabad. And I think Kerala is a space where we can talk. We can't talk in Gujarat. So, right?
I'm sure it works. We can't talk in Gujarat, but of course we do.
Yeah. And we dance. She dances what she has to say. So I think we're going to make this session informal. So we're not going to wait for Q&As till the end because then we have only 5 minutes. So I feel, Akka, is it all right? At any point, if you have a question, just raise your hands. And we're going to go in a random order from her books to life to whatnot. And after that brilliant introduction, I just want to start by saying for a lot of Mallika Sarabhai fans that while you know so much about her, for me, a recent moment with her was at the Natrani Amphitheatre when we were rehearsing 6 hours a day. She was lying down on the stage in the middle, looking at the stars, asks me to lie down, and just sweetly says, "What are your problems in life?" And this is Mallika Sarabhai asking me, what are my problems in life? And I don't know what. I'm like, do I say political stuff to impress her? You know, and then I'm like, I have a fibroid in my uterus. That's the best I could come out with. But other than that, all I want to say is this is a woman who a lot of people think is intimidating. But for me, it's not just been wonderful working with her. It's extremely emotional sharing this podium with her. She gave me my first ever award for the work that I've done as a journalist. So quick question. Akka, let me start with how is it that you are still surviving so much with even the recent happening in Andhra Pradesh where you were told not to dance and then you just said, I will dance outside. I mean, I don't even know what to ask you. All the I can say in the Gen Z term is, how's it going? Like, what all you've done?
It's going great. Listen, I've just become Chancellor of Kerala Kalamandalam. It's a fantastic opportunity. It's bringing me back to my favorite part of the country, to my favorite genealogy. And I'm going off there tomorrow for the first time. And I'm really, really excited by this.
Yeah, and since you mentioned genealogy and we were having an amazing conversation, I wanted to know because let's talk about some things we all love, and that is, I think, love. So we come from a place where we are the ones who coined the term love jihad. And I wanted to know your take on it because you were saying that if love jihad was there, you wouldn't have been around.
I was talking about love jihad to somebody the other day, and they said it was actually here in Trivandrum at the IDWA conference last month. And I said that had love jihad and the BJP existed 100 years ago, neither Vikram Sarabhai nor Mrinalini Sarabhai would have been born because both my grandparents went against societal norms and intermarried. My Kerala grandmother married a Tambram, and my Jain grandfather on the other side broke the Jain tradition and married a Hindu woman of Vaishnavite tradition. Hi Makran, how are you? And again, had both my parents not been love jihadis, I wouldn't be here. So, hi, I'm a mongrel and a love jihadi child.
And thank you. You can feel free to applaud, sir. That's we performers love that. Akka, a little about it. You have a question? Shoot. No problem. Volunteers, it'll be nice, but you can just, if you can be loud enough. Can I just repeat that question for others to hear? So he wants, okay, that's much better, thank God.
So your father, Vikram Sarabhai, was a physicist, and you became a dancer. So what inspired you to become a dancer?
You know, had I become a physicist, you would be asking me, your mother was a dancer. What made you a physicist? I think the answer to that is the following. Papa was not a scientist for the sake of science. He was a scientist because he thought that science could help India, help the poorest and the most marginalized. And at a time when India was broke, I don't know if you've seen the series Rocket Boys, because this is all in it. At a time when India didn't even have food, he had to go and convince Panditji that satellites were a good idea, not because of any whim and fancy of him as a scientist, but that satellites could take teaching to the millions of farmers and to the millions of people in villages to whom teachers could not be sent. So his thrust was how to build the nation and how to help the most marginalized. My mother was a dancer who danced about issues, political issues, issues of violence, And I think both my elder brother Karthikeya, who is an environmentalist and who works for development through the environmental field, and I, who use all these platforms to talk about issues that concern me, my dancing is very often seen as either social or political. Uh, I think I'm interested in creating the India that I believe in. And all my work, whether it's as a dancer or whether it's somebody who's very interested in brain sciences, or somebody, as in my book, who's very interested in the so-called alternative medicines, I think actually allopathy is the alternative. I was several thousand years older. But yeah, so I think dance is my language. Dance and all the arts are my language. But what I wish for is a gentler, kinder, more just India.
Before we come to the other questions, sir, because she just mentioned her book, I'll come to you. Um, your book talks about many interesting things, but what struck out for all those who've read is that your health, that journey has been crazy. So is there something, and especially that tumors episode, because many of us don't know that side of you. For a lot of them, it's been, and you kept to your dancing. So if you could just talk a little about that entire health, because when I read it for the first time, I love reading and I love eating my chips when I'm reading, right? So here I'm eating junk food and the book is only talk about eating healthy food and I'm like, bring more chips. I don't think I can deal with this right now. But Akka, you've had a tough journey.
Yeah, and the book is to tell people that one can fall flat on one's face 20 times and still get up if one wants to. It's, at 17 I was told that I had a brain tumor. Endocrinology as a science hadn't been born. There was only one doctor, a dour Australian working at St. Mary's Clinic in London, who was doing research on cancer of the brain, to whom I went. And a lot of my very deep interest in what are called, again, alternate forms of medicine stem from that, and stem from my own experiments with myself, because I like to try new things, whether it's like bungee jumping or diving off a cliff or chromatotherapy, which is therapy treating the body with light, which in fact is as old as Cleopatra, because Cleopatra used to have glass on which color was painted, which was supposed to keep her young. And chromatotherapy has been around for 3,000 years and has now become a very researched science, which I also talk about. So yeah, it's my life's journey. It happens to be a life's journey in trying to understand this temple that is my body, and understanding that we only have one temple. And that is the temple we pour the most garbage into. And that is the temple that we neglect. We never send for servicing. Our car goes for servicing more than we look after our own bodies. And I think that if one is healthy, and if one can talk to one's body, and if one learns to listen to one's body, then everything else in life can be tackled. If you're feeling sick all the time, if you're feeling ill all the time, and it's something that you can change, then damn well change it. Because there is no feeling as good as getting up in the morning and wanting to spend another day trying to bring fragrance into somebody's life.
Yeah, I love that temple of the body. Finally, we should all look up and say, Mandir yahi banayenge. I was so
मंदिर
tempted.
यहीं बनाएंगे नहीं,
बना
मंदिर तो
है,
है.
उसको संभालेंगे.
है.
But just a quick plug-in, I must tell you that grab this book in free fall. It's very, very interesting because for me, not just working with her, knowing her from being a young Ahmedabadi girl, seeing the kind of work she's done, to coming across a very vulnerable side of a mother, a dancer, is very powerful. So please grab a copy of the book. And she's also open to comments and feedback and reviews on it, right? Sir.
Ma'am, a real privilege to see you for real. And the question is, it's not a question actually, it's in the lighter vein to both of you, especially Preeti is a stand-up comedian, like you said. Do Gujaratis have a sense of humor these days in the current context?
Gujaratis have never had a sense of humor. I mean, that's one thing that I don't blame on the current government.
You said never.
Never? In Sanskrit, sarcasm and irony and humor and play of the words was such an important part of our literature. If you see Bhasa or Kalidasa or any of them, this play of the words. But I do think Gujaratis don't have a sense of humor, genuinely.
My only thing to this is that I think we're so good that we've sent the best of the comics to the capital. I'm going to stop at that. I can't say too much. But other than that, any other questions? Feel free. We are okay with comments. If at any point you have questions for Mallika Akka, just raise your hands and let us know
Ma'am,
anything
this
you...
side.
And you
Yes,
can be
sir.
rude and nasty. I'm so used to it.
Ma'am, this side.
Yes.
I
Oh,
have a
you
copy
have?
of this with me. This I would like to take a signed copy from you later. But my question or my curiosity,
No, it's on. You just have to point it to yourself.
yeah, my curiosity is on Peter Brooks and your experience, because Peter Brooks and the environment, the cast itself, has a relevance in the current scenario, because Bhima is coming from other country, another character is from other country, which is quite what you call a revolutionary cast. Considering the present scenario, it was a revolution at that time. So I would like
And
to
yet, every color on that spectrum represents an Indian, whatever other majoritarian people might want to tell you.
Sure, true.
Every single one. You know, I will tell you that it was a revelation. My son was 5 weeks old when I joined the Mahabharata. And because I was breastfeeding him, I used to take him to the 14-hour rehearsals. And whenever Peter and the cast became too much for me, I would say, I need to breastfeed and disappear. But his first nursery rhyme was Polish. And his second nursery rhyme was in a language called the Pearl, which is from the Banjaras of Northern Africa. That is the kind of upbringing he had. What was interesting is that we couldn't bring the play to India because political forces were stopping it, and Ramanand Sagar and people didn't want it to come, and they were powerful enough to stop it coming. We did bring the film to India, and I had warned the cast how racist we are. And from the first press conference in Bombay, the president of the Bombay Press Club stood up, and with Bhima and Bhishma on my two sides, both of whom were black Africans, said, "Why do you have baboons like this playing our gods?" In the 5 years that I played the Mahabharata across the world, the only question Indians have asked is, why do blacks play us? Not one of them said, why does a blonde play Yudhishthira? Why does a blue-eyed person play Arjuna? That I would have understood, because I understand that anybody not Indian is not acceptable to them. But that was, in some senses, a very strong, persistent discomfort and chagrin. I think who I became, this so-called boldness that I'm seen as having, this so-called fearlessness, came out of two things. One is the total aloneness I felt for the 5 years that I played the Mahabharata. Because for the first time, I was cut off from every route of mine, and the only route was Draupadi that was left to me. And the second is the misery that Peter put me through as a director, but taught me that it's only when you peel an onion, slice by slice, that you come to the shunyata, which is truth. And only then can you become an actor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, is there any other question, or I can continue? Because as I said, let's make this informal. Don't want to keep questions for the fag end and people go feeling very disappointed. Yes,
You are
yes,
also
don't worry.
asked. You can also ask.
I can ask, but that enthusiasm is too much, Akka.
Out of curiosity, I'm asking, why don't you do it? Why wear two boring earrings at the same time? That is a part of patriarchy, what you are asking. Patriarchy wants everything equal. Nothing in nature is equal. Can you see a single tree that follows the patriarchal rule? Can you see any clump of earth that is like the other? Can you see any river that is like another? Don't fall into patriarchy. It is lurking everywhere.
So, yeah, we've been used to this every day when we were rehearsing for Conference of the Birds. You know, we're trying to dance, and then suddenly she's saying, that is patriarchal, and we're like, wow, what happened? But it's this, she's a firebrand, and the funny part is, our director, Yadavan, would always come and tell us, for those who understand Hindi, tumko sharam nahi aati? She can practice for so long, what's wrong with all of you? So it's just awesome working with her. But since you mentioned patriarchy, Okay, I just wanted to ask that in the scene today of culture and art, how do you see women? Because we always still have this thing that we have a place at the table. I am going to bring my own chair. You know, these are the things that we're also hearing constantly in this festival, where we have a lot of representation from women. I'm not even talking about LGBTQ at the moment, but I want to understand, Akka, what is your take on the role of women? Is it changing in terms of creating content in art, in culture?
It's changing and it's regressing at the same time. You know, I'm saying this because I'm in Kerala. I was brought up on legends of women in my family, in my Taravad, who fought patriarchy. The Mapla revolution, my great grandmother was told, run because the Maplas will come and burn you down. And she said, I have treated my Maplas fairly. So she cooked for 200 people, and when the Mapla revolution, the revolutionaries arrived to burn her down, she said, why don't you sit down and have a meal first? So they sat down and had a meal, and then she said, why don't you talk to my Maplas? And the Mapla said, but she treats us the same as she treats her children. So we have no issue. And the burners and looters walked away. This is the kind of woman that I was brought up on. And 20 years later, I started working in Kerala. I was working with the Kerala State Women's Development Corporation. And I am horrified at how much Kerala has regressed. The women, for all their education, are frightened, silent, cannot talk about anything. There is no younger generation of firebrand women, neither in journalism nor in activism. And I'm deeply disappointed. And I try and come here to shake that up. Why are Kerala women so frightened? And why are Kerala men so insecure that they need to do things to the women and keep them ground down? Why? This was a matrilineal society. This was a society we looked up to. You are becoming worse than Uttar Pradesh. The violence that we hear about, the domestic violence, the cases of sons putting cameras in bathrooms so that they can sell their mother's nude beauty for drugs or for ice cream or whatever it is. These are cases that are horrific.
Do you have questions or just applauding? You're applauding. Okay, this is some one corner audience who are applauding, which you can't see, but they're just like, okay.
Hi. There's space here. Why don't you come closer or come and sit here with us?
Yeah, we're okay with that.
Come.
Yeah, because
Come and sit on the sofa, whatever.
Come.
Yes.
Sorry, you had a comment,
Blue
and I could see
t-shirt.
that gentleman just squeeze in, and he's like, oh my god.
Blue t-shirt.
No, whatever you said is true. That is there. But my question is, how effective is your social activism under the current regime?
I'm standing. Makarand, what do you say to that? Of course you can say, here is a regime person.
That's a kind of, what should I say, racist remark, but I'll let that pass. No, my question is, I mean, I think that the way you've not buckled is totally admirable, and the kind of troll attacks you've faced, it's horrific. So actually my question has to deal with that, partly, because you always reply to these useless, horrifying, horrible trolls in a very nice and polite way. And I'm trying to link that up with another question I had about your book, which is in a way about epigenetics, neuroplasticity, I mean, positive thinking, mind over body, all of that. But my question relates to, anxiety, mental illness, depression, which I find very prevalent all over. And I dare say I feel depressed too, let me confess. So now and after COVID, I think that it's a very big issue. And it's a silent issue. And it's not that we are happy talking about it. I mean, it's easier talking about outward things.
Or a stomachache.
So my question to you is really that, which I link to your troll attacks, that how do you maintain a mental balance and a sense of hope, positivity, optimism, and a kind of buoyancy, I feel, which is really important, because I think mental issues are very complex. They can be, they can come out of trauma, they can come out of a head injury, they can come out of blood flow issues, aging, hormones. So I wanted your take, because your book for me is, one reads so many self-help books, feel-good books, But this is a shining beacon, I mean, in the kind of situation that we all undergo as individuals, apart from all the politics and all that. So if you can throw some light on that, thank you.
You know, there are 2 or 3 very different ways that I have dealt with depression. One is that it is now proved that doing physical activity, and especially something like dancing, because the music aspect is also there, sets off oxytocins, which is what gives the brain the feel-good feeling. So one of the first things I would say is get up and dance. It doesn't matter what you dance to, it's like bathroom singing. You know, the first thing that a child does when the child is born is move its arms and legs. Our bodies were meant to move. Our bodies were not meant to sit. So just the fact of moving, just the fact of getting into that state, that's one. Second is, first of all, find out that it's not a chemical imbalance or something, because that can be. And my friend Aparna Piramal has just written an amazing book about mental health. It's called A Chemical Khichdi, How I Hacked My Brain. She herself is bipolar, and so she takes that other stance of how to help people. I think, Makarand, there is the positive and the negative deeply embedded in all of us. And we need to find ways. Society leads us to bring out the black. It terrorizes us, it makes us insecure, it says your job will go away, it says you won't have enough food tomorrow, hoard just now because you might not this, you might not that, everybody's out to get you. It only brings out the black. And I think each of us needs to take the time to find that which brings out the goodness. Because there is nothing as high as knowing that you have done something with no agenda. I'll tell you something that happened to me completely accidentally. I was performing in Nigeria 25 years ago. And Nigeria is a very difficult country for vegetarians. So I ended up eating either pineapples or yogurt. And let me tell you, after 5 days of pineapples and yogurt, you really want to kill somebody. So between 2 shows, I had gone into a rather dark food shop, sort of the kind of shop that has biscuits and this, that, yeah. And across from it, on the other side, I saw this Nigerian woman with this magnificent headdress, and you know, the way only African women can be. And I just went up to her and I said, what a joy it is just looking at you. I saw her face drop 20 years. She could not imagine that an Indian dressed like this could actually cross an entire store just to tell her what a joy it was to look at her. And it was on that day that I decided that every time I see something in anybody that pleases me, that gives me joy, that makes me smile, I will take the trouble to go and tell them. And people are very scared sometimes at airports and so on. I suddenly pick up their pallu and say, what a beautiful sari. And they sort of look at me like that, and then they go from, you know, this big grin, because we don't do it as a society. We only criticize. Every time something goes wrong, I will go. But try it. It will give you more good chemicals in your body. And you don't want anything from that person. You'll probably never see that person again. But just do it and see the difference it makes. So there are these small, there is this toolkit that you need to build up. For me, it is putting on Shubha Mudgal and dancing. For me, it is playing with my 7 dogs. For me, it is dancing, of course, but you know, talking of dancing, when I say dancing, people think Bharatanatyam. No. It means bopping. And there is a recent controversy. Shush, I'm not supposed to talk about it. Kalamandalam had a Nila festival, which was a classical festival. And at the end of the Nila festival, the students there said to the registrar and the VC, can we have a dance party? And the registrar said, yeah, sure. So there was a dance party in which the registrar and the vice chancellor joined. And of course, the purists, by next day, there were pictures of me saying, what does the chancellor have to say to this sacred space being besmirched? Hello. They were having fun. They were not doing a striptease. So, you know, so bop. put on some music that you like and bop. Nobody is looking at you. Your brain is looking at you, and your brain is sending you signals that are amazing. So develop these. I do yoga as well. Yoga, I do meditation, which also helps. But I do a lot of talking to myself. I ask myself why I am giving a situation the power to depress me. I ask myself why I am giving you the power to insult me, to humiliate me, to make me feel small. Because it's only if I give that power to you that I can be made to feel small. If I don't give you that power, then it doesn't matter what you say. And I think that's the important part of being at peace with yourself. How is my social activity under the... You know, I have had this for 20 years now. And I continue to be who I am. So...
And I must tell you, as coming from the same city, just to add that we do find it a little difficult, you know, when people say, oh my God, you're working with Mallika Sarabhai, and suddenly it's another tick in your name, right? For us, it's a matter of pride that we're working with Darpan and, you know, some of the finest productions. But yeah, under the current regime, it's been slippery for a lot of the young people, and therefore the apprehensions.
But
and
I
I'm very
also
honest.
have to tell you that I have worked with BJP governments on social development projects. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was a personal, very dear friend of mine. And in Gujarat, I have worked on issues of health. I have worked on issues of women and education with the government. So it's
Yes, there was a question. Who had some, there was someone. Yes, sir.
It is a great privilege for me to meet you, ma'am, under the tree, especially in Trivandrum. There is one more reason behind that. I am very proud to say that I am working in your father's institution. So, yeah. So, if I couldn't raise something, I think it is a sin. So my question is, ma'am, you have done a lot for the women empowerment program, and still it is going on. See, it is purely out of science, and you are a very good dancer in Bharatanatyam. That's what I read. And you are in Rajya Sabha also. You have done a lot to Gujarat also. So, what do you expect from our women, irrespective of the age? Because in the society, so many things are happening. I am telling this with reference to Kerala state only. Every day when you search the newspaper, you will see that this way, that way. It is very bad to say that. They are suffering a lot. In it, they need an upliftment. Say, gender bias is there. Women empowerment programs are there. Our central government is highly encouraging. Even our President of India is very grateful to encourage such programs. So, what is your message to our young generation?
My message is really to the men of Kerala. I would say to the men, both in Kerala and elsewhere, that women know that we have to break free of many things. Men have even more things that they are trapped in. They don't know. If you were to say, if a young man was to say to his parents, you know, all I want is a rich wife, I just want to stay at home and cook, I love cooking, what do you think they would do to him? Men, I give this example often. Imagine a person in a security jail, and there is one guard outside looking at that person inside the jail. What is the difference between the two? One is inside the bars, the other can't move away from the bars. The one inside the bars knows she's entrapped. The one who can't go anywhere doesn't know he's entrapped. So every man who is looking at every SMS that his wife has done, looking at over his shoulder at who she is talking to, who is she not talking to, who is she going out with, what is she wearing, where is that man's freedom? He is tied to his suspicions. He is tied to his insecurities. Unless you get away from your insecurities and stop seeing yourself as security guards, society won't change and you will be entrapped forever. Women will change whether the men allow it or not. Men need to change.
Yes. We're going to keep it as interactive because I get to meet her, rehearse with her 6-7 hours a day. I've asked her everything from the food she eats to the dogs to sharing amazing moments. So here's your chance. Yes, we'll come to you as well.
Hello, Preeti and Mallika Sarabhai. I've grown up from my childhood hearing your name, seeing your images, your dancer status, and about your parents too. We all looked up to them. Now, regarding this the current scenario, social scenario that we are all speaking about, what can we do about to change the status of women here in Kerala, because it is really pretty bad. Moving on from a matrilineal society to this thing is, there's a paradox in everything. We are the leftist, pro-leftist state. We are the highly educated with 100% literacy and everything. But do you have any idea of why this is happening? And what, as the Chancellor of the Kalamandalam, what can you do, even including Preeti also, what can we do? Can you invent some dance forms or choreograph something like a play that you can take throughout the state of Kerala to make people aware that what we are really going back regressive and not progressive? This is not going to get Kerala anywhere in the social map up. We are going down. So can you too, especially you as Chancellor of the university, can you devise something so that it can reach more people then? Because we are a small audience here.
You know, in 2006 and 7, I was working with the Kerala State Women's Development Corporation. I was discussing one day with them why this situation and why Kerala women didn't speak in spite of being at the brunt of so much violence and so much abuse. And we created, based on many different case studies, we created a film called Unartha Pata, which was written and directed by Yadavan Chandran, who is TV Chandran's son and has been working with me for 20 plus years. And with that film, I went to 40 colleges and spoke to 40,000 young women. Women who can't talk about themselves, we would show this film and say, what do you think that character should do? And over a 2.5 hour period, by the end they were saying, this is what my uncle says to me. So they felt open enough within that process to talk about it. And they would come running after my car and say, madam, what can we do? Because our principal says if a man whistles at you, you just take another route. And you are saying something completely different. The first thing I would say to you is, and this is not a joke, is to learn self-defense and learn how to kick in the balls. Because everything else will come later. You have to escape at that instant. The second is, forget this nonsensical belief that marriage is a must. It is not a must. If you do not believe in dowries, if you do not believe in being sold as chattel, which is what dowries are, say no. Say no. It is much better living with the devil you don't know than the devil you do know, because the devil you do know will never change. Your parents will always blackmail you emotionally and say, you know, what will happen to our status in society? Status in society is not important. You might think it is. Change cities, change whatever. But learn to take that stand. When you young women become mothers, don't teach the same things to your children. Don't treat your daughter differently from your son. Let them first be human beings, not Hindu and Christian and Muslim and not boy and girl. Then in one generation, you will have created a completely different kind of society. And learn to say no. Good girls are boring. Good girls have to adjust all the time. Who wants the approval of somebody saying you're a good girl? You say that to a pet, good baby, good boy. Don't say it to us. That's the way to change. Learn to say no. Learn not to constantly want male approval. You do not need that pat in the back. You give yourself a pat in the back when you do something that is right. When you do something that is just. When you do something that is not only for yourself, but is for a group of people. That's the only way to change. Not by talking about it. By each one of us saying, this system stinks, I am going to do my bit to change it. Today, every day. I never let anybody say him for them. I never let anybody say history or mankind. I say, please change it. Because every single word that you utter has a meaning and does influence your mind and influences the minds of others. So start with something small. Start by saying that I will not use gendered language. And start by saying that I will not, every time a classmate of mine or one of my other girlfriends comes in looking very nice, I will go up to her and say, you look very nice. Rather than, oh, kaun lagta hai, dekho to sahi. Which is what women are taught to do. We are taught to hate other women. Other women will be your greatest supports. Your greatest supports. There is nothing like that. So break out of, ask yourself what are the prejudices that you have internalized and try working with those.
And I'd like to quickly tell you, ma'am, I have been doing stand-up for 12 years, and I think all over the country, I'm going to definitely blame the Gen Zs, because the problem is they're always encouraging male stand-up comics who are making fun of women constantly, and humor is something in which you actually tend to put a stereotype deeper inside people's mind. So here I am standing alone with support from a lot of women, especially like Mallika Akka, who push you and say, come on stage and talk about things. Having said that, for the last 2 days, I've been doing workshops with little children here. And when I'm doing storytelling, Akka, it was very shocking for me, 6-year-old, when I say, what happened when the angry husband came home to the wife? They didn't take a second and they said, he beat him up. And I'm like, how do you know? Because it happens in my house. 2 days of just coming and doing workshops with little ones here. So I feel that my job here as a theatre person is to make sure I get all that out, see how we can deal with it. So the more you, as she said, look at women, say no, I say spend time with children. Try to put new thoughts in their minds. I have given up on adults and therefore I do.
Oh, I
things
gave
with
up on
children.
adults too. I started with adults, then went into pre-adults, then went into adolescents,
Now
and now
you-
I'm working with 3-year-olds.
So, yeah, that's the, yes sir. Sir, you wait, how many questions you'll ask? No, later, later.
Next to you.
Next to you, and then we go to, I think the lady in blue. You had a question?
Talk to me after.
Wait, we'll go. Sir, enough, sir.
And
See, you are not
incidentally,
letting
to
women
ask
talk.
to ask your Kalamandalam answer, I hope that I can find a group of people in Kalamandalam who are willing to take the art and tell different stories that can change society.
Yeah,
Correct.
correct. Sir, wait, sir. The mic,
May I please?
are you? We'll do, we have time. We will come to you, woman.
Please forgive me if my question sounds childish. It's since both of you are from Gujarat, so it pertains to Gujarat. What is intriguing and baffling to me is that a majority of population is pure, strict vegetarian.
No, it's not. No,
And
no, it's not.
what turned
I-
a majority of them into brute just in a fit of rage that we saw in 2002?
What do you think turns the whole nation into brutes?
Not majority.
Meat eating.
I'm talking
Gujarat?
about majority.
Gujarat has never been a majority vegetarian state. The Adivasis, the Dalits, who comprise a large section of society, plus the Muslims and the Christians and the Jews, have always been meat eating. It is the tale of people like me, meaning upper caste, vegetarians, who have convinced the world that because of Jainism we are vegetarian. The Jains go and they eat at the chicken ki lari next door and they will be very pious at home. Gujarat has the highest growth in chicken eating in any part of the country, and these are actual food statistics. So I can't tell you how food and meat eating is related to violence.
It remains invisible.
Yes, but so much in Gujarat does.
I was just going to say that.
Like the alcohol. I have friends from IIM who are colleagues of mine and classmates of mine who used to tell me in the early years, 30 years ago, that the highest sales award always went to somebody who was selling illicitly in Gujarat. Because Gujarat is, because it's illicit, and you know that everything that is banned is particularly popular, drink, I mean, when a bootlegger comes, you don't buy one bottle, you buy 12, because it's so much easier, right? So, invisible.
And I'm from Gujarat, I eat non-veg, but I just want to tell you on the liquor thing, it's very interesting. Everybody who have met me, they were saying, Arey, Gujarat, land of khakra. I'm like, yeah, we make the chakna for the entire country, but we don't get our alcohol the right way that we should. So, sir. And then we come to you.
I love the way you sort of couch seriousness with humor, which is also a ploy. But my question is back to dance. Just two references. Of course, pure classical Bharatanatyam is what you learned and grew up doing and continue doing. One of the sort of international turning points was Peter Brook's Mahabharat. Putting those two polarities side by side, I'm interested in knowing whether Indian classical dance in general, and perhaps maybe Bharatanatyam, if that's easier to answer, how does it deal with modernism in terms of how does it modernize itself for the stage? Because I know there are so many purists. So you do a new kind of tal or a abhang or a abhinay, then they say, oh my God, this is not part of the template. So I'm just curious.
I have just created a performance called Past Forward. And it takes Bharatanatyam from the 12th century to 2022, how the Naika changed and how at some stage with rowdies like me, the Naikas changed the content. I grew up, and when I was 7 years old, Amma, who was learning Gujarati from the newspaper, started reading about young girls jumping into wells in Saurashtra. And she went to people like Umashankar Joshi and Jayanti Dalal and Niranjan Bhagat, our great literature people, and said, what is this about? And she was told that this is because of the pressures of dowries and that the girls did not want to go back to their homes. And Mama was horrified. The Salem girls' killings hadn't come out then. And she created, from Bharatanatyam, which is a dance of Shringara, she used it for the first time to talk about dowry deaths. And in order not to alienate any audiences with a language where they could say, we don't understand this language, she revolutionized it by taking the shulla, the bowls, and making them into language. So that, for instance, a gossiping group of women go, so everybody could understand the language. And I grew up thinking this is what artists do. They take an alphabet. You take English. She takes Bharatanatyam. And then you talk about what you think you should be talking about. So I already thought this is what everybody did and was deeply surprised that she was the pioneer, but she remained one of the only ones. So it's not necessary that the alphabet changes. You can change the alphabet, you can stretch the alphabet, you can change the way the words are written. There are some fabulous books that I read where the words are actually going like this rather than like this, for a purpose. Or you can change the content. I wrote a whole series. My son was studying in England, and about 10 years ago wrote to me and said, Ma, I'm studying in England, I'm sitting here, I'm dealing with the bobbies every day, I'm dealing with my landlady, and here I'm dancing, oh Shiva of Brahadishwara, where shall I find you, won't you come to me? It makes no sense. So I wrote a series of new songs for him. I wrote in English, a friend translated them into Tamil. They were put like padams or varnams and so on. One of them is to Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. And it says, Brahma, thank you for creating this amazing world and of seeing that everything is Srishti is created. Vishnu, thank you for seeing that the sun rises every day and the moon rises every day, the tides come in. But Shiva, we are not going to pray to you anymore because we have become better destroyers than you. We have destroyed the mountains, we've destroyed the seas, we've destroyed the earth, we've destroyed humanity. So why should I pray to you? So, you know, you take the same context. Because today, I might pray to Krishna to send my lover to me. My lover might happen to be a girl or a woman. But it's the same Krishna I'm praying to. Or a tree. So what I'm saying is that modernizing something and making it relevant has many different facets, and you can do it in many different ways. I still do Pakka Bharatanatyam, Pandanallur Bharatanatyam, but I also, most of my creative work is taking from that vocabulary and taking it elsewhere.
Sorry, I was just trying to convince her, but it's okay. Because when I saw Fast Forward, the piece that struck, I mean, I loved it, was called Bad Girl, in which she is doing Bharatanatyam to rap, and it was so beautiful that I could see the younger generation connect with it, and everybody came and said, that Bad Girl was an awesome piece, you know? So
हम adjust नहीं करेंगे, हम
That's the
bad girl
piece.
बनेंगे, said
हाँ.
my little ones.
Very sweet. Very
And
sweet.
actually, that whole sequence of bad girls, and it starts by Adjust Kar Lo, and this
Ah.
is with the musicians who composed Gully Boys, but
Yes.
before Gully Boys.
Yes.
And it is based on 2 books. It's based on a book called something single by Srimoi Piu Kundu, who is talking about a completely unseen demographic in India, which is the single woman. And there are 73 million single women. They can be widows, they can be single because they're looking after parents, they can be divorced, but that was one book. And the second book is called Chup. And it is how we socialize girls to be like the Kerala girls have become. Chup. And I researched both those books, and all the lyrics and the rap came out of those. Well, I'll talk to you about the other one that I wrote, which is a Padam to Krishna. You know, Padams are always about longing and love. And in this Padam, he says, oh Krishna, the girl I love lives across the seas. And every time I call her, I get a voice machine saying, I'm at work, I will call you back. Oh Krishna, will you not make her love me? I take her out and I tell her how beautiful her eyes are. I open a bottle of champagne. I give her an earplug and we listen to music together, Krishna. Won't you make her love me more?
But you must see Bad Girls. It's just awesome. Come to Ahmedabad. Awesome. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
She's been waiting.
Sorry to disagree with you, but when you say you don't see firebrand women in Kerala, I say you're not looking at the right places.
Please point me to them.
So, Kerala young
I
girls
have to
all
say-
over the campuses, they're fighting for their right to claim nights. They have 4 and 1 menstrual leave for all campuses. And if you look at the leadership of campuses, it's all women-led parties and
Thank you for giving me
unions.
this really good news.
Yes, also the number of women workforce, it's increasing drastically. So I believe it is irresponsible to say Kerala has become worse than UP. That only serves the sunk. So
Forgive me if I've said that. I'm delighted to hear. I would love to hear about violence coming down. I would love to hear about less gold being draped on women and women being sold in the name of marriage. Please get there.
I know, ma'am, your intentions are very right, but we, as a member of the younger generation, I would like to assure you that
Please give
we
her a big
are
hand.
marching forward.
Wonderful. I was delighted when the Women's Association of the Film Industry started. Yeah, the women's... We don't have the time. We have to accelerate that change because the rate at which women are being killed and maimed and mauled is increasing every day across the world. In France, every 2 days, a domestic partner kills a woman in France. So you can imagine what it's like in Asia and Africa.
The lady in the sari? Oh, done. Oh, same question.
Is the mic not working? Or?
I have a question, ma'am. Actually, in dance and music and everywhere and in temples also, we pray to goddess, Shakti, Devi, whichever form it is. But back home, it's just the opposite. Why this conflict?
You know, it's very convenient putting a woman up as a goddess that you don't have to deal with, or a whore. And these are the 2 places where patriarchy relegates women. You either say, oh, goddess, but that goddess is not in your house. That goddess is up there and you don't have to deal with her every day. Or you call somebody a whore. You know, Makran was talking about hate mail and troll mail that I get. And women, when they get hate mail, it's always about, I will rape you, I will cut off your breasts. It's always about the body. It's always about the body. It will change. It will change when we learn to kick balls. Listen. DNA and science has proved that the Ardhanarishwara phenomenon is scientifically correct. No, but it is scientifically correct. We have to bring out and push up the male gene, and the men have to push up the female genes. then we will be a much happier society, because it won't be a race and it won't be about proving my power over you. What is power? Cooperation is what is required. It's not somebody crushing somebody else, because neither is the crushed happy nor is the crusher happy, because that crusher constantly thinks that somebody higher up will come and crush him. So this whole hierarchical structure is wrong. Families, I was talking to a group of Kutumbashri women who I gave an award to yesterday, and I said to them that women know how to adjust depending on the means that they have. They run their households. If there is 5 rupees less, they know how to manage. So they cut the cloth according to what is it. That is the kind of cooperative, inclusive society we need to become. And not think of it as a race, because it's not a race. Life is not a race.
We have time for just one last question. One last question. You've changed your mind? Okay. You can ask. It's not working.
Hello. Yeah. No, I'm very happy to be here. My question is to Preeti, ma'am. Like, it's very simple. No. It's like, as a stand-up comedian, I know the people now, especially we are living in a society where some of the feelings or some of the profession that's led by the ladies had a suppressing, attitude by the people around. So where men were doing stand-up comedy, you started doing it. So what do you want to tell the younger generation, that how can you come up with something that is, very opposing by the society, that men normally did that. Now you as a stand-up comedian, how was your journey? I mean, you can just explain.
No, I think I should tell Mathrubhumi to keep a session, especially with me. And I would love to do that, because it's a long story. But in very, very short, I think as Mallika Akka has been saying, just be at it. Because there's no other way. In a lineup of 10 men, I am the only woman. 90% of my audience continues to be men. But I'm still at it, and I teach as well, and I keep telling people, understand soft sexist content and do not approve it. So that's what I'm doing. But again, if Mathrubhumi is here, I'll be more than happy to do a full session on how to write content for stand-up comedy. I would love to do that.
And also ask that young woman how they are slowly changing rules in society and the workforce. Because that's how women are changing rules everywhere. Right?
Ma'am, what we do to get more women is, again, we keep saying Gujarat is a dry state, but we have done work with the bootleggers of Gujarat. 80% of the alcohol business in Gujarat is done by women.
Done by women.
Right? Both as bootleggers and as brewers and carriers, right? They have done stand-up comedy. We get young sex workers and ask them to do stand-up comedy, which is dark humor. So again, we are trying to pass it and teach it to a lot of people, and as she's doing the same with, people in Ahmedabad. So the idea is, I think at the end of the day, is we keep passing the buck, and then we get such fierce women who we will never forget, right? So, but any other parting quick question for Mallika Akka? Anybody? Ma'am, any new face? Oh my God, they are very strict. And we love this about them. But Akka,
no, that's fine.
Yeah, you're open to Enapachi if they want to.
I'm around.
She's around, so anybody wants to sort of ask her questions. But one more time, ladies and gentlemen, none other than Mallika Sarabhai at the Mathrubhumi International Festival of Letters. Thank you so much.